You're amazing. So this is one of those presentations that you're definitely going to want to listen carefully to, take notes, review the video after, and download the presentation, because there's always tons and tons of information that is going to be useful over the course of the next year, certainly. And by the title of the presentation, it sounds like you're going to be talking about emerging markets in particular as drivers of growth in games, which is something I've actually been spending a lot of time researching and thinking about, and I'm eager to hear what you have to say. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to you so that you can make us all smarter. Okay?
Okay. I'm going to do my best. It is the first time that I'm presenting in Casual Connect USA. I've done 2 or 3 in Europe, so I'm very happy to be here. And in the introduction, you can hear, I'm into market research. I'm a data nerd. My team is a data nerd. We increasingly help companies here based in the West Coast of the US, so NVIDIA, EA, Microsoft, that type of companies, even Valve, use our data to make smart decisions. And it is about emerging markets, the title of my presentation, and I'll touch on that. But I also have some other thoughts and visions about what's driving change that hopefully will help you to understand the future. And that's, of course, what we all want. So we help companies to make choices. But you Americans, you must be very good in making choices, because I'm here for a month. And that little family over there, I'm head of a company called Newzoo, and I'm not the head of the family, that's Ava over there, and 2 kids. Spending a month here, mixing business and pleasure. And then we're faced with this type of decision making, We only have cornflakes and Rice Krispies back in Europe, but you're facing these tough decisions. And there's a lot of fun to be had here. This is the county fair up in the wine county. So making decisions about what to do, making choices what to buy. Yes, we've been shopping. Couldn't get this in Europe, but I've got my hands on one now. So I'm trying to mix up my holiday pictures with this presentation, which is filled with data. First, I have a question for you guys. Who is this guy? Does anybody know? Ben Franklin. Yeah, that's very good. I actually dove into the American history as preparation for my trip to the US. This is Benjamin Franklin. What's his most important invention? Does anybody know? Democracy, the USA. It's not democracy, it's not the USA, it's time is money. That's his statement, that's his thing in this sort of book that he wrote. Time is money. That's his invention. So time is money. And that's actually very much applicable to different situations that we are now facing in the games market. And I'll show you why. I'm going to touch on the global market, how growth is shaping there, what's happening with the screens. Oops, games are services. What's going on there? And what does that mean for an organization, maybe like yours? All to understand growth, and hopefully also to get some hard data points that you can use to back up your gut feeling about the future. Global. So the market is a completely global marketplace due to that we are all connected to the internet. We always provide this very in-depth data for our clients on a limited number of countries. Now we spent a year doing financial analysis, getting all kinds of data together to have a better alternative than general market outlooks from companies like Gartner and Price Waterhouse. The market is moving too fast for generic companies like them to do projections towards the future in a way that we can use. So we started doing that, and we spent a lot of time doing that. We combined everything we knew. We watched a lot of Breaking Bad series to keep creative. And on a high level, what comes out of that global data model that has all the KPIs for 110 countries is high-level stuff. But don't forget, you can dive into this and look at the average spend in Venezuela, how many people pay, etc. This is built up on a very granular level. Well, what was lacking a little bit is a simple overview of the market. And of course, we're based in Amsterdam, we're crazy about design. So when we do a pie chart, we put all kinds of icons on it to make it We call it in the office the hairy balls, but that's not really a nice term to use officially, I think. Well, we estimate the total market to be about 70.4 billion this year. And you can see that if you split it across regions, Asia Pacific already is significantly larger than the North American region. Not significantly, but it's bigger, at least. And that gap is going to grow. And that has to do with what we're talking about today, the whole range of emerging markets with high economic growth in that region. So if you put that in numbers, a market that's growing healthy and a share that's increasing of the APAC region, that means a pretty impressive growth. So even North America has a healthy growth of about 3%, we expect. But the share of the global market will decrease a little bit. So we all need to think about other markets than the mature markets. Making it even more visual, we pulled out of this global data model for sub-regions of the world, the total population, how many people are connected to the internet, how many people play games actively, and we plotted them. And you can see, if you would say Japan, Korea, Australia are mature markets, together with North America and Western Europe, and all the rest is where there's a lot of growth, because there's a big jump between the number of gamers and the total population. You can see how dramatic that difference is. The Economist published a global map where they had economic growth areas, and it's exactly those regions to the right and not to the left. So where we are at now is that 15% of the global population spends about 3/4 of the money on games. Obviously, that balance is going to change. So growth is driven by other factors there than in the West, but we'll get back to that later. Another generic picture. So it's I put a lot of these graphs in also for you to download it afterwards, and you can use it as a reference. This one is up for free on our website, by the way. So we need to have an outlook that's segmented in a way that you can use. So not only mobile, you need to have tablets and smartphones split up, because there are two separate types of screens. And as you can see here, the tablets, we expect clearly a far faster growth rate than with the smartphones. And if you zoom in on, if you look at the total market, looks healthy, about 86 billion in 2016. But the theme of this event is smartphones and tablets. If you pull that out and put that in hard figures, the share of the market will at least double in a couple years' time for those screens. And do not forget, when you look at the number of gamers, the tablet gamers, about 280 million in 2013, will almost double, and the smartphone gamers will add another 50% to almost 1 billion gamers. But there's a huge overlap. You can never have a pie chart that has smartphone and tablet gamers, because about 80% of tablet gamers also play on their smartphone. For your reference to use, but we're talking about new markets. So also here you can see the divide, that the mature markets like Japan, which will be the biggest spender on mobile devices this year, approximately as big as the US, and then it's Western Europe, and then China is actually then the fourth region. The other regions still relatively small. And everybody asks me all the time, what's the share of Google Play or Android versus iOS? Well, we all have difficulties tracking the money going around in China outside of iOS, so on all the Android devices. But at least Google Play is now at, if you compare Google Play revenues to iOS revenues, at 41%, and it was 19 only a year ago. So it's still a lot smaller, but it's growing faster as we all feel. Some people are surprised by the Japanese revenues, and some people are jealous of Supercell, and they hope their revenues will sort of ramp down a little bit so they stay normal. But the bad news is they're now really hitting Japan, which you can see is the biggest market. They recently released a new version, localized in a better way. It was featured, you can see in the green part, featured in the App Store. So expect Gung-Ho and Supercell in Japan to go head-to-head for the top spot in July. So Supercell is going to earn even more money, guys. I'm sorry. The fact that mobile is so global, you can see that if you rank the countries per App Store based on the money that's spent by people on games, you can see a nice mix of countries spread across the globe. And to the right is the stuff that we publish for free every month. And to the left, that's maybe even more interesting, are the iPad countries number 21 to 43. I found it interesting that Malaysia, for instance, spends more money on iPad games than Turkey. Because this market is so global, it might see a completely different strategy when it comes to launching games than we're used to. iPad gaming in Russia is bigger than in Germany. So if you have a game, first translate into Russian before you do German. That's something which would have sounded maybe ridiculous some time ago. It's simply a bigger market. And I've got another question for you. There's something weird about this list. This is the list of the top games on iPhone and iPad in Russia. And normally there's the revenues behind it, but I'm not really allowed to show that. But if you sort of take a picture at the right moment, you might be able to have it. He's got it. Good. There's something different of this list compared to a list in the US and UK. What's different about the games listed here? Anybody have an idea? Which one big one, for instance, is missing? Candy Crush, indeed. There's no Candy Crush in there. Why? Because the iPad is a guy's thing in Russia. It's a core gaming device. So we're all here talking about, will the iPad become more core gaming device? In Russia, it's already a core gaming device. The guys play core games on there, or mid-core games because of how you operate it, but core-themed games. And that's unique. So if you have a core-type iPad game, the market in Russia is probably 3 times bigger than that in Germany. So that's a serious difference. So your rollout strategy towards new countries, you should think about that very well, and you can do a smarter job than a lot of the companies are currently doing. Russians are proud gamers, so treat them as a primary market and you'll get rewarded. So over time, we used to call them emerging markets. We don't even dare to say that. Now we say growth markets. But they're becoming primary markets very, very quickly over time. So time will deliver us money. Screens. As you can see, this is a pretty rapid pace and a lot of data. Let's have a breath for a moment. Screens explain also why there's so much change going on and where the growth is coming from. The lower 2 screens, so a tablet and a smartphone, used to not be present. It would be mainly the TV screen or entertainment screen and the computer screen, but the number of screens that people have available to play games have doubled. Has in mature markets their wallet doubled to spend on games? No, of course not. So they're spreading their money across more screens. And in the end, if every type of screen is equally important to a consumer, it might end up being 25%, 25%, 25%, 25%. So if you want to think about what the cap would be on tablet and smartphone gaming, you could play around with that thought. So cutting out the jargon about MMOs or mobile as a group helps you imagine stuff about the future. And I have to put this in because we're talking about smartphone and tablets. No, PC gaming is not dead. PC gaming will remain to be the biggest revenue generating screen at least until 2016. Because the games are high end, people spend a lot of money there, and emerging markets, the uptake of PCs is very big. I have to say that in between, because some companies, I drive them nuts by only talking about smartphones and tablets. The good thing about these 2 screens, they're not taking away money from those, but also adding some stuff. Because of the new screens, the number of players is growing again in the US. It stagnated, it's growing again. And more important, the time is going up. So it's creating more time to be spent in this nation, creating room for more money. Because today we're learning time is money. If you zoom in on mobile, which is almost on its own driving the growth of number of gamers in the US, 25% more people in a single year play mobile games. Look at the age groups where the growth is biggest. So the uptake has been in the lower ages, but 150% growth in the US on 50 plus aged gamers. I thought this was very interesting, and a similar development in Western Europe. So are mobile devices succeeding in getting the guys that played core games to keep playing games, but maybe on a different device with a mid-core type thing? It does look so. So we're creating more room in the market. As you all know, games are valued at 22 cents an hour. Maybe some of you didn't know that, $22 an hour. So if we have more time spent on games, it's going to end up in more money. So time is money. So that's good news. This whole revolution is going to give us more money. I visited Intel this week and NVIDIA. NVIDIA's launching the Shield. So the Shield looks like a handheld console, but it can also stream from your PC content to your TV, but you can also play it on your mobile screen. Where do we segment that device? That's difficult. That's difficult for me as a researcher. That's difficult for an investor. You know, how can we keep segmenting the market that we understand? So we at Newzoo, we're already thinking at, okay, how can we go about this? Because the question will be, on which screen is the entertainment, the game played? Where do you pay? You might pay with your smartphone, stream it to your TV, play it on the TV. Do you then consider it a TV game or a mobile game? And where's the game hosted? If you stream it from your PC, is it a PC game that you play on your TV? Maybe you think I'm going crazy, but it makes it difficult to understand where things are heading. But no worries, we're on it. Next presentation, we will have this solved.
Awesome.
Because
I'll hold you to that.
Yeah. Will the TV screen simply become only a screen, or will it also be a PC? I think the first. Okay, last thing, services. Everybody knows games are free now, they're a service. So updating your stuff on the server side, that's where the innovation happens. Changing the business model, adding levels and stuff. This is of Mediatonic, who gave a super presentation at a Windows event. What I find even more interesting, and now we're coming to time again, free-to-play games that add spectator modes. So the time spent in League of Legends doubled since they added the possibility to watch others play. Because they saw that everybody's watching YouTube movies of other people playing. So all the games now putting a lot of effort in having people watch that content within their environment, because the longer they're there, the more money they will spend. So these free-to-play games have the effect that they're sucking up even more time. And guys, free is not evil. Slowly everybody's beginning to understand. What works the best when I'm at a traditional publisher is showing them that 39% of all console gamers in America has never spent anything in console games. They just borrow it or play it of their brothers. And it's 55% for mobile and 43% for MMOs. The difference isn't that big, so don't be so afraid of stepping in. But those games do suck up a lot of time. That's the essence. The longer you're in there, time is money. So if you've got that down, sucking up time, monetizing people, that's hard on the organization. It's completely different than having a marketing organization of boxed products. So the organizational impact is quite evil. that's also the reason why Mojang, Supercell, Wargaming, all the games we're now talking about are not the traditional publishers. They're still shifting around to this new way of working. That's hard. One of the last slides illustrates this. This is a game developer who used to work with publishers, but because games became a service, had to add scalability, technology in the company, live operations team. He had to handle all the big data coming out of his games, and he had to do user acquisition himself. So he posed the question, what's the role of a traditional publisher? And as KickSci says it at Casual Connect, I think, self-publish or die, which is a typical KickSci thing of saying things. Things have changed a lot, and it's also the reason why these guys have taken a lot of time to catch up. And we've been laughing about Sims Online, the launch. We think they were slow in making their games free, but when the Simpsons game earned a lot more money than their FIFA game, which was paid, EA realized, I think that was the moment they switched. Okay, now we believe. And you can see the result. And I think they have been trying a lot, learning a lot, and I think it's an example, 76% revenue is digital, that they're spending a lot of time, but all the investment in trying, the time they invested is turning into good money. Time is money there. A lot of stuff I touched on, a lot of data. We're here to help. We try to tackle the problems of the future, but we also try to help you with your daily marketing and everything. And in most cases, it's a lot of fun to work together. So hopefully, time is money. Let's start today to work together, because there's no time to waste. And you will not be the first. We're proud to work with some of the coolest companies around, and a lot of stealth startup companies as well. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Peter. So there must be questions. I have a question. Where did that number that games are valued at 22 cents a minute come from? I've never
I
heard
thought
that
you all
before.
knew that.
No, I didn't know that.
No.
Did you know that?
No, we try to keep track of not only the money spent, but also players, how many people spend money, and an estimate of time. And we do not actively publish that all the time, the number of hours spent in the US. But if you divide the number of hours spent in the US by the number of gamers, by the dollars, you get 22 cents an hour. And I think if you would go look at other entertainment, like cinemas, you would come to a similar number. So I think in a mature market, there's a certain value of games for people, and we cannot expect that to double. But if people start spending more time, that's more value. That's sort of my theory. But it's 22 cents, can't help it. That's it.
Thank you very much. Oh, wait.
For the adaptation for the mobile users, for the mobile, is that 148 sessions for 2013?
Yeah.
Do you expect that to continue on that pace?
Can you repeat the question for the recording?
If the growth of the older mobile gamer segment, say 50 plus, will continue at that pace, yes. Yeah, well, it cannot continue at a pace endlessly, but it will be 150 now and it will 120 next year. It will not suddenly drop. Yeah. But I'll have to look at the absolute numbers, but we can handle that afterwards. Yeah.
How do you approach spend on the tablet versus the smartphone when it comes to like linked iOS accounts when you're segmenting that market?
Two ways. Spending on tablets and spending on smartphones. So two ways. We do all our primary consumer research, which we're known for. We've done that for 5 years. We can look at what consumers say their average spending is on tablets. But we work with Dissimo as a partner, so we also have continuous insights on the money earned. And what we normally do, we look at the number of consumers that state in a certain month that spend money on tablets, divide that by what the App Store analytics say, and then look at the average spend per player, trying to get sort of an ARPU. but it's an ARPU indication. And indeed, the difference between smartphones and tablets is becoming larger and larger. So the ARPU, the average spend is becoming bigger, bigger, maybe almost double. But the difference is increasing because of the core type games getting in that have gamers that have a bigger budget. But yeah.
So I'm afraid we're out of time. If anybody else has questions for Peter, feel free to catch him on his way out of the room or at the parties tonight. I'm sure we'll see you there.
Yeah, if they allow kids to drink beer, sure. No, I'll be there.
Of course we allow kids
Yeah.
to drink beer.
Okay.
Thank you again.
Thank you.